Welcome to the Growth Lab podcast, where we talk about finding new clients, winning more contracts, and growing successful cleaning businesses. I'm your host, Matt Harris, and I run the Growth Lab. We partner with cleaning business owners to launch, accelerate, and scale the growth of their business with tried and tested systems and strategies that generate predictable revenue. If you're turning over at least 6 figures and you want to grow your cleaning business to 7 figures plus, click on the link in the description and schedule a call. Now let's dive in. So what are some of the other differentiators, aside from offering additional services, that you come across or that you help the best businesses to develop?
So we don't help. I just want to make sure we're on the same page here.
Sure.
Can we help them? Of course, but a lot of it comes internally, which is something we don't get hired for. So let me give you an example, like operational excellence and expertise. Like, who is your team built out of? Is your team built by people that have been in the industry as long as you have? Or did you go and hire top of the top dogs to say, hey, look, all together, we've been in the industry for 300 years, managed over 50 million square feet. This is our previous job. Like, one would be the team development. Like, who does your team compromise of? Because when they see, if you're winning a big contract and they see that you've never cleaned a big contract, then they don't want to give it to you. But if they see that all your team is made up of people that have, that's something that definitely can differentiate you. Technology can differentiate you. I've been in calls where the bigger the contract, the more they want to know that what you use internally so that they understand how protected they are as a company. But again, let's say we're going big RFP. Now, let's say we're going small. Alex Ramosi says it's best, like, play the game that you have now. So when you're small, you get to say, like, I will literally be on response within a minute. You call me and here's my number and I got you. And that's something a big company can't promote or can't provide. That's something you can. So 24-hour response time, direct line to the CEO, like whatever it is that you can play with, that you know that a bigger company is not going to be able to play with. So I think it's just more understanding, who are you serving? What do they want? And what can you provide outside of the service that fits what they're looking for?
So, James, you were going to say something?
No, I think Angel hit it spot on, actually. I would say on the smaller side, too. And when I say smaller, like let's think like 5 million and under now, just for context. Like, I think experience from start to finish, not cleaning experience, client experience, from the sales process, from how you're doing the walkthroughs to how you're presenting the proposal to your follow-up to the onboard. One of our longest lasting clients, I love what he says at every walkthrough. He'll show up and he'll say, hey, listen, what's your biggest differentiator? For example, you know what? We're going to mess up. That's what he said. We're going to mess up. The difference is we're going to pick up the phone and be accountable. And we all are going to mess up. Cleaning, you're going to have cleaners not show up. You're going to have mistakes happen. You're going to have theft, whatever the case may be. There is going to be a mistake. And just kind of getting ahead of that objection and that obstacle before it ever happens, but reassuring them, like, hey, but we're going to be accountable. He talks about like the 3 R's: be responsive, build the relationship, and ultimately give the end result, a clean facility. So like, you don't have to like overcomplicate this if you're a smaller company. You just have to position yourself differently, and then ask yourself, what experience are you providing from like literally start to finish? And then how are you maintaining that experience throughout the lifeline of the client?
So just going back to when you started, so you've got a residential cleaning business, right?
Yes. Well, I tried to keep it residential because obviously, as I said, I was pregnant. I had young children all the way through growing it. For me, it's all about work-life balance. And there's no point in running a business if you then don't get to enjoy your children. What is the point of working 12, 15 hours a day to make more money? Yes, I can see the point of doing that. I chose not to do that. I always chose to keep my business a bit smaller. I definitely limited growth of my own business because to me, it was more important to have that work-life balance.
So how did you go about winning your first client?
Gumtree. So back then, Gumtree was free. So this was a long time ago. Yeah. And I took on my first customer at £7 an hour, which all of you will be cringing at. It was a long time ago. Inflation's happened since then. Yeah. So, and at the time, £10 an hour was an all right price. I think I was up at £12 an hour within about 6 months because I quickly realized the error of my ways. So it was Gumtree that started me off. Social media although Facebook and things had existed, it wasn't like it is now.
Yeah.
Now you would just go straight on Facebook or Instagram, even TikTok, not quite as effective. Whereas back then it was Gumtree.
Yeah, Gumtree. I remember using Gumtree. You need to dig around a little bit. And did you post adverts on Gumtree as well? Did you
I
refresh
think I
quite
paid
regularly?
my £2 adverts.
Yeah.
Got chatting to people. Yeah, it worked. And then, like a lot of businesses, it's word of mouth. So probably because I was charging £7 an hour, gosh, my name got rippled around there. I had leaflets, so I put those up in the Tesco's and the Sainsbury's, and leaflet drops. Now, I would not touch any of those. I'd go straight for advertising online and doing search engine optimization and those kind of things. But back then, that's just not an option when you first start out.
When I started my cleaning business, I did the same thing. Flyers, we did some leaflets, definitely Gumtree, and then mostly emails as well. Didn't really factor in any SEO or paid advertising or anything until much later on. Yeah, a website is your storefront. No, it's your it's home base. It's where you know people go to kind of validate your service. If you don't have a website, that should be a red flag to a potential customer, because you know, are you a serious enough business to, in the 21st century, not to have a website is going to be a little bit unusual. You look at the biggest businesses, they all have websites, so you should replicate some of their behaviors and utilize the online space to develop your own website. Even if you don't optimize it, let's just say you have a one-page website with all of your company details on there, a little bit of a blurb about what you do. That is still going to be more favorable than just, in my opinion, than just advertising your services on Instagram or on Facebook and not really having a fallback for when people come to search your online profile. Customers are getting more savvy. They will do their due diligence, right? They'll check you out online. So you need to have an online presence. You need to have an online profile, and a website is a central part of that. Like, what does your client outreach approach look like, and what does that onboarding process look like for like the bigger client as well? So two different bits. So deal with the client outreach first, because I think that's one thing that a lot of smaller business owners get stuck on. And then just to give people an insight as to what it looks like to win a 7-figure contract, like what the steps that you had to go through to eventually win that client.
Early days, and we still do a wide variety of outbound and inbound sales processing. So what do they look like? So we do a lot on social media, and the early days of my business, I remember I was working for a large FM company and started a business on the side as that's the sensible thing to do, right? I know these gurus online tell you to go all in and just do your passion.
Burn your boats, that's it.
Yeah.
No turning back.
I understand the logic behind it. We wouldn't recommend it. Quite calm if you're on the street. So I was working both, and I used to do an outbound via LinkedIn, which is how we were introduced to each other. So I would literally send office managers messages on LinkedIn, and it was a bit of a scattergun approach, don't get me wrong, but that gave leads, and we got some business out of it. So social media is a big one, and one I'm a big advocate for a number of reasons. Outbound marketing, so simple email marketing campaigns, quite often early days and still do now. Now it's a little bit more sporadic because our customer has changed. When we were first starting with no revenue, you would, if Harry had an office down that needed 2 hours cleaning just on a Friday, we would take business like that. But we did. So email marketing is another big one. One that we actually spend quite money on now is SEO, search engine optimization, making sure our website is the top of Google, which we've got a lot of domain authority now. So we have a lot of customers come to us, which is the ultimate goal, right? Because as we and the sales process, and this is something that I'd get the audience to just be conscious of, is when you're running a business, you wear many different hats, and the cleaner might call sick and contract for a week. And what that does, it brings peaks and troughs in the sales process. So making sure, you've got your email campaigns, you've got your inbound stuff coming in by SEO. Give you constant stuff coming in, even if you're not doing anything outbound. Basically, if you stop, you don't want your leads to stop coming in, because then you're going to be super and then it's quiet, and you're always going to have them up. So making sure your website ranks well is a big one. Get bigger contracts is probably a lot that people ask me when I deal with business owners that are maybe slightly large. And we're not big by any stretch of the imagination. There are tender portals out there which are generally larger cleaning contracts. But our biggest is via SEO. So they have effectively come to us on all occasions, which is unusual, to be honest. So definitely make sure your website is super up to date. We're actually next year recruiting for our first sales business development manager. So they will then have to grow up. It's a bit of a scattergun approach. Make sure your website's okay. Get some email campaigns going. Try to use social media and reach out to people. Don't get me wrong, out of 10, you'll probably get one reply, but you've just got to keep going with it. Don't be scared of anyone on LinkedIn saying, I'm getting sales emails. It's a tool at the end of the day, and you've got to utilize it.
No, I don't think. I think there's like a slower adoption to the tech because, and this is the same I've found for commercial cleaning as well. A lot of it is based on relationships, whereas it seems that in the US it is transactional. Look, this is what I need to get done, so let me just get it done. Whereas here it's like, especially if you're working within your local community, it's getting known, it's getting established within the community, it's getting referrals from business networks or whatever the case may be. And I think there's just it appears to me a slower adoption process to utilizing tech to the advantage of your business to help it to grow. That doesn't mean that you're hamstrung, but it does mean that you're slowing yourself down a little bit because everything is moving online. I did some research, and 60% of UK cleaning businesses have a website. Now, if you don't have a website, if you're not visible online, if you don't have a Google profile in particular, Google is the biggest search engine in the world. If you don't have a Google profile, if you're not collecting reviews on Google, then you're, for all intents and purposes, you're invisible. Simple things like having a website, even if it's just a 1 or 2 page website, which can be optimized. And you can have a layout in there which will take the visitor on a journey to not necessarily to either book with you or to at least raise an inquiry. And I found things like that astounding, because social media and a lot of your visibility online is available for free. And I just think utilizing these tools that are available to you, yes, it requires a little bit of learning if you're going to do it all yourself, but we've got YouTube for that. You want to learn how to build a website? Go on YouTube. You want to learn how to collect reviews or how to set up your Google business profile? Go on YouTube. It's all there. It's free resource. A website is your storefront. No, it's your it's home base. It's where people go to kind of validate your service. If you don't have a website, that should be a red flag to a potential customer, because are you a serious enough business to, in the 21st century, not to have a website is going to be a little bit unusual. You look at the biggest businesses, they all have websites. So you should replicate some of their behaviors and utilize the online space to develop your own website, even if you don't optimize it. Let's just say you have a 1-page website with all of your company details on there, a little bit of a blurb about what you do. That is still going to be more favorable than just, in my opinion, advertising your services on Instagram or on Facebook and not really having a fallback for when people come to search your online profile. Customers are getting more savvy. They will do their due diligence, right? They'll check you out online. So you need to have an online presence. You need to have an online profile, and a website is a central part of that. I think also investing time in developing a brand is massively important, in particular in an industry like cleaning, because there are a lot of players, small players and big players, but because it is quite saturated and a lot of the time there is a bit of a race to the bottom because, people compete on price rather than value. So really the importance of building a brand so that customers understand the value of your brand really then helps with, your efforts to grow and to position yourself so that you're not being compared on price. You're being compared on, okay, this is the value add that, using this business, using fantastic services can add to me as an individual or as a business because, they solve A, B, and C problems.
That's why
but that doesn't come unless you've developed that brand, right? Because people won't know you otherwise.
That's why you see the lifetime of some corporates is like they're very old. They're very, very old. They've been around for 40, 50 years. They're very, very old. Some have been around for hundreds of years, right? The biggest ones have been around for 100 and something odd years. In fertility management, then it becomes a whole different kettle of fish. And it's very hard to punch train on that unless you go in, oh yeah, we can do it cheaper and this stuff here. And then once you're in that stuff, they don't survive very long. So it is, it's like, oh, they said, oh, they can do it for £8 an hour, so can I. It's like, can you? Have you got the software? Have you got everything else? It's like, you might win the contract, but are you going to be profitable on it? Are you going to be living off it? It's like, that's another story.
Yeah.
Right? That's the whole aspect of commercial and corporate cleaning that just becomes really tough to deliver, if you go down that race. So I agree with you.
Thanks to you guys for listening to the Growth Lab podcast. You can access the show notes and free resources via the link in the episode description. And if you got some value from this podcast, please pay it forward and share it with others across social media or leave a rating and review on whatever podcast platform you listen to, as it would really mean the world to me. Hope you enjoy and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.